Hello, greetings to everyone that will watch this video. Um, this is a very short video about research in our university. My name is Dr. Anaya Wasabri. I'm the Director of Research, Innovation, Communication and Technology Transfer in Accra Technical University. The video is about 4 main topics, and one important aspect of our core duties as lecturers and then even non-academic staff is to publish. But as we embark on publishing, there are certain things that we are supposed to know concerning where we publish, how we publish, and certain impacts that we are supposed to achieve as a result of publications. The word publication, as we all know, normally means that once you submit an article and then it goes through a particular review process, meaning people go through, it then becomes available to society. So people will have access to it and then they will be able to read what you've done. And generally, if you don't publish, nobody actually sees what you've done or the kind of research results that you got from what you did in your particular work. So the first topic that I'm going to discuss in this video is about the concept of journals. A journal is defined as a collection of articles, normally a collection of articles in a particular period. And it expands out within that particular period. So maybe in the year 2021, you could have different periods through which these articles are published. So what it means is when you open a journal, when there's a journal that is online, you see that it has volumes, and within the volumes, there will be different articles within. And previously, when technology had not advanced, journals were not online. So they were sort of hard copied, and those were the only ones that we could access. But currently, as we all know, many journals are currently online, meaning that you could even type somebody's name, and if the person has a publication within a particular journal, you have access to it, and so on and so forth. The important aspects of a journal is first, whether the journal is peer-reviewed or is a refereed journal. The meaning of peer-reviewed is, or it refers to the fact that there are people who will look at the articles which are submitted, who will sort of assess, who will evaluate the articles which are submitted, and they will provide comments to the person who wants to publish, that is the authors, and mainly the corresponding author, meaning the person who submits it to that particular journal. Now, the peer in this sense means that it's not only one person. You have maybe 2 or 3, or sometimes there are even 4 or 5 that look at that person's article, and then they will give some comments, some comments. Some of them, sometimes the comments are a lot, and so on and so forth. But generally, comments will be given, and once they provide these comments, then it is up to the authors to look at the comments and then revise that particular article. Now, peer reviewing is very important because it allows the article to go through some scrutiny. Many a times when we write articles, we may not even know that it has certain problems here and there. All the authors may read, but they may not see that it has this particular problem here or there. So the peer review or refereed journals, they do this. Now, there are 2 scenarios in this. The journal could be a journal which is online, all right. It says that it is peer review, but the actual peer review that is done, the comments that come out, you see that they are not scientific enough. There are certain peer reviews which are done, but when the comments come out, you see that it is not really making any form of sense, or you don't see any sort of scientific impact in it. And then there are ones that when you read or when the comments come, you see that actually the people have read the paper, the reviewers have read the paper very well. So that brings into notion the issue about predatory journals and reputable journals, or journals which have a good impact, journals which improve the ranking of a university, make a university better, and so on and so forth, in terms of its reputation and all of that. So it is always important to understand what goes through a peer review process. And a peer review process means that you have other people in that particular area regarding that article who are going to also read and then provide certain comments for those comments to be corrected by the authors. But as I stated earlier, it is also important to look at the indexing of a journal. That is why we have a term called an indexed journal. Once you are submitting a paper to or an article to a particular journal, it is important to look at the indexing. The question here is, what is indexing? Indexing is a term which refers to organizations which are of high reputations that recognize a journal as a good one or a bad one. So once a journal is of a certain quality in terms of its impact factor, once a journal is of a certain quality in terms of the publisher, and so on and so forth, then these organizations will recognize that particular journal and place it in a particular index. So if you hear maybe Google Scholar, it's a type of index. If you hear Scopus, that is also another type of index. If you hear Web of Science, that is also another type of index. All of these types of indexes, they look at or they refer to journals which have good publishers. And once their publishers are good or reputable enough, then it will achieve that kind of indexing. And basically, looking at all of these terms, it is quite important to try your best to always publish in a particular journal that is peer-reviewed. Peer-reviewed in the sense that the review is rigorous, the review is detailed enough, the review is scientific, the review comes out properly, and the review makes you, the author, convinced that this article was read. And there are certain things that indeed I didn't see, but other people have read it, they've seen. The comments are going to make my paper or my article better, and then you are satisfied with the comments. That is a good peer review. A good peer review will also look at certain questions that will be asked, and then whether, for example, a simple question will be whether the article even meets the scope of the journal. It's a simple question. And then what are the strengths of the paper? What are the weaknesses of the paper? What is the contribution of this particular paper? Is the paper technically sound? And so on and so forth. And whether the paper has enough impact to society, and so on and so forth. This is what peer review actually looks at when articles are being written. That is how it works. So let's be mindful of this. It's very, very important. Now, I'm going to share a little issue on my screen for you to understand some of these things better in terms of okay, so we are now on the web, and I opened just one journal here that I'm going to share with you. And when you look here, we have for reviewers. So if you look at the journal overview, we have abstracting and indexing here. So it's the indexing of the journal that we are looking for. This is a journal called the Scientific World Journal. Scientific World Journal can be found in Hindawi. Hindawi is a publisher. So normally within a publisher will have so many journals within. And when you click on the abstracting, or when I click on the abstracting and indexing here, you'll see a full list. Now I'm in Hindawi as a publisher because I know Hindawi journals are reputable. Hindawi has come a long way, and they have reached a certain quality level that anywhere they are mentioned as publishers, it is a good one. So once there's a journal in Hindawi and you want to publish in, you've already gone into a good peer-reviewed or refereed journal, and the indexing to is here for this scientific world. There are so many of them, you see. So full list of databases and services and all of this, you see. So once you see, there are certain indexes which are very good. So you see that earlier on I mentioned Google Scholar. Google Scholar is here, you see, and we have inspect also, which is good. And many of them, some related to biology, some related to other forms of sciences and all of that. But we also have Scopus here and so on and so forth. So three key things here. We have Scopus as an indexing in this particular journal. We also have Google Scholar as an indexing in this particular journal. And then the publisher is also Hindawi. The question about whether this journal is, reputable or not, is obvious. It is very reputable in that particular regard, and so on and so forth. And when you look at the overview, for example, if you look at the editorial board of this journal, everything is clear. You have academic editors. So when you click on agronomy, for example, you have everybody here. Many of the authors have an OSCE IT, and so on and so forth. So some of these things, once you do it, then you already get to know that this journal has this particular reputation, and so on and so forth. You can even Google some of these names to actually verify whether they are working in these institutions or not. And then that one can also give you a general overview about that. So let's take note of all of this. Now, normally, when you want to write an article to a particular journal, there are certain things that you have to think about. Your research interests are very important. All of us have research interests. If you are in a particular department at ATU, obviously your research interests will be in line with your department. So if somebody is in marketing, if another person is in accounting and finance, obviously we all have different research interests. There are different aspects within marketing, different aspects within mechanical engineering, different aspects within electrical engineering, fields and disciplines. But there's a particular aspect that, based even on our master's degrees and PhDs that we have done or we are still embarking upon, that we are particularly interested in. That is your research interest, and that guides you into selecting even a particular journal to be able to publish your paper. Now, if I am into computing, for example, I cannot publish into a journal maybe that is International Journal of Procurement. No, it can't be done that way, because all the articles that go into International Journal of Procurement, which is an example, will be related to procurement activities. But that is not my area. So if I submit an article there, it's likely to get what we call a desk rejection, because it is not good enough for that particular journal. That is how it works. So the research interest is key. And then you have to also verify the theories that are within your field, the dominant theories that are within your field. So if you are doing something on technology, maybe there are technology acceptance models, there are different models within technology, different models within computing, and so on and so forth. You have to verify what is dominant to see which ones you can apply, and so on and so forth. And then every journal also has a guide. Sometimes when we are submitting articles to a journal, we have to be careful, very vigilant about, for example, the number of words that that journal wants you to use, number of pages, the formatting template that has been given, the fonts, the font sizes, how equations should be within that journal, how the tables should be formatted, how figures should be formatted. What about the table captions? What about the figure captions? The line spacings within the articles that we are typing, and so on and so forth. How many words in an abstract? How many words within keywords, and so on and so forth. All of these are very important aspects of what to do before you start even writing and then submitting the paper to a journal. That is what we have to think about. It is very important. Now, identifying the journal is always in line with your research interests. One important thing which has to also always be done when you're identifying a journal is to look at your research interest, and then once you know your research interest, you target journals which are reputable, target journals which are indexed properly, target journals which have good publishers, and so on and so forth. We have had research seminars on this, so I know many of you now understand this particular reputation of journals when it comes to good ones, when it comes to good publishers, and so on and so forth. And once you do that, then you'll be able to understand the guidelines towards submitting the paper there. There are many forms of desk rejections, and there are many ways in which your paper will be rejected on the desk, meaning it will not even go for any peer review if you don't follow this particular procedure. So it is always important to look at your research interest and guide yourself towards that, and that will also allow you to increase what we call your research exposure. The research exposure increment is very, very necessary. It is necessary due to the reasons of not sticking to one aspect of the research all the time. You have to always go deeper into what you've done previously by reading more into what other people are doing within the journals that you publish or good publishing houses. See, so you can only get good papers from these journals as well, and that is why it is important to always have that focus. And the issue about publication in terms of predatory will always not allow you to have that kind of research exposure that you need. The predatory journals just are in the look for money. They are in the search for certain aspects of funds and so on and so forth, which is likely not good for us as academics. As academics, we have to look for reputable journals to be able to let people have that impact and see what we are doing well. That is why we are all encouraged to always look for reputable journals which have this sort of impact. And that this is where another aspect of this short video also comes in terms of article metrics. Now, the article metrics looks at your particular article. For example, let's say you or I, we submit an article into a particular journal. Now, the metrics of that article will not be good if it doesn't go into a reputable journal right from the start. Now, what are metrics? The measurement of or certain factors which are used to measure that particular article. Now, the article will have what we call an impact if it is found in a particular journal that you have submitted to and then they have published it for you. That is how it works. Now, the metrics could be citations. For example, you can get a lot of citations if your journal is published, your article is published in a reputable journal. The reason being that many renowned scientists, many renowned academics, many academics all over the globe, they will prefer to go into or they will prefer to access reputable journals and see the kind of papers which are being published there. And then they will read from there. So for your article, most of the time, to get good citations, it is better they are submitted and published in these reputable journals, so that in terms of the impact that your article will have, in terms of how good your people will see your article to be, if they are found here, then it's better. So it is always good for us to have our names as authors, have our affiliation, which is ATU, as a university in Ghana, to be found in journals in Estonia, journals in Hindawi, journals in IGI Global, journals in IEEE for those in engineering and then computer science and so on and so forth. So that once your name is found there, it raises the image of the institution. And once that is done, then it means that the article level metrics too will high because of where it is found. So this is a very short video, as I said. I'm sure I'll come up with different topics for us to discuss. If you have any question, Brit office is open to you. You can always give me a call. Most of you have my phone number, so you can give me a call. We can have a discussion. If you want to submit a paper and then probably you have some questions that you want to ask, or you want to find out whether where you are submitting is good or not, I'm here. That is my duty to help you to be able to submit to a good journal. Remember, it's always important to submit to a reputable journal and reap the fruits of your submission by getting a good impact through citations and through other sort of metrics, site scores and all that. So thank you very much for listening to this, watching this video and listening to me. And then Till we meet the next time.